Good evening guys. I'm constantly right now spinning my spinner. It's helping me to relieve the pressure, because apparently when I nearly put a video up last night, but I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been slightly premature, because all talk about ENZO Fernandez was off, basically because the owner of Benfica just didn't want it, and we wasn't prepared at that point to go the extra mile. Now it seems we are, so let's start off with that one, because as we speak we're at it again. Our owners have got on a private jet and have gone to Portugal to talk direct with Benfica, and I'll read you some tweets. Fabrizio Romano, this is in the last hour, so it could happen tonight guys. This could be news tonight, it could be breaking news tonight. Chelsea are planning to insist in very strong and convinced way to sign ENZO Fernandez in the final 48 hours. As we know, the window shuts on the 31st of January. It says there, even if Benfica president Rui Costa doesn't want to give up, owners and board, all Chelsea structure are 100% involved and focused to get it done. More to follow. If we sort of go with what you said prior to that, Chelsea are back in direct talks with Benfica for ENZO Fernandez. They want the player at all costs. Chelsea would be prepared to pay the £120 million fee. Well, there you go guys. Benfica president Rui Costa has still no intentions to accept, but Chelsea will insist to get the deal done now. It's mad. Twitter's absolutely just blowing up right now with this particular talk. Obviously our supporters are just totally gassed. Just saying it's probably the best transfer window of all time, and the money and Todd Bowley, what he's throwing out right now, is absolutely incredulous, without a shadow of a doubt. So much so that it is rattling the haters. It's rattled UEFA. Rumour has it that there was contact from some English Premier League sides, reference our spending, and obviously they've changed the rules, UEFA, with regards to the longer contracts. And I've got to tell you guys, up until the fact that it was being talked about recently, I never even knew it was an issue, I'll be totally honest with you. And it's rather interesting, Simon Jordan on Talk Sport, him talking, reference that he doesn't see how UEFA could actually pull it off, whether it's actually even lawful, you know, under employment law, under the players' rights, just human rights, that sort of thing. I mean, at the end of the day, Chelsea are a business, and how they go about their business is entirely up to them. You could argue it's a way around FFP, and I suppose it is, in terms of short-term spending. In other words, how we are conducting ourselves in the transfer market and how we're getting around supposedly FFP. But you know, it could all backfire on us. You know, we're obviously doing this with regards to young players, high quality players, and doing it over a period of time where we expect to not be at a disadvantage. In other words, that they last the period of time, or at least 3/4 of it. So then we would either be in a situation where we're in strong negotiations with regards to anybody else. So let's say, for example, Mudryk, he becomes this absolute world-class baller, and someone like Real Madrid come in with 200 million or whatever. You know, the chances are, because we have quite a long contract with the player, we could negotiate those types of prices, you know. So it looks like we are going for our man, guys. And there's a petition, I believe. You see the pinging going off right now. It's all the tweets. It's literally crazy out there. But yeah, there's a petition. And rumour has it it's come from a Man City fan. I don't know that for 100% for sure whether it is or it isn't. But it's basically, if we were to get ENZO Fernandez, you know, Chelsea must be investigated. It's incredible, isn't it? You know, the hatred, you know, towards our team. UEFA, they're kind of like just making it so abundantly clear, aren't they? You know, we're hated, we're absolutely hated, and all the haters and the hate that came our way during the sanctions and everything else, and the way we were, you know, I draw back to that particular Carabao Cup final. I was on my way home after going to the game, and listening to people like Danny Kelly on Talk Sport saying that it just wouldn't have sat right had Chelsea won the game from a moralistic perspective because of Roman and Russia and everything else. Please, you know, it just absolutely takes the piss. And to be fair, as I've always said before, the more they hate us, the more I love it, because it means we're successful, and it's just, at the end of the day, just plain jealousy. You know, that's what it is. They expected us to be dead in the mud, and it looks like we're, well, I mean, I was just doing a little calculate as to what we've spent. Let's just go through it, guys. There's a lot to cover today, so this is quite a long one. Malagusto, 30 million, a bit more chat about him in a minute, because as we know, we've done that deal now. He's done a medical at Chelsea, and we'll talk about that in a bit more in a minute. But Malagusto, 31 million, depending on which way it's gone. Nani Madueke, 35 million, Mudryk, 100 million, with all the add-ons. Felix, 11 million, which could turn into 60, 70 million if we buy him next season, if that's a possibility. And Nkunku, 60 million, Badiashile, 38 million, Fofana, 12, Santos, 20 million, Aubameyang, 12, Casadei, 15, Solina, 12, Koulibaly, 40, Fofana, 85, and Sterling, 50. Actually, to add to that as well, I'm sure there's a few players that I've missed out on there as well. I think there are, but I actually calculated as 520 million. I mean, if you're going to have to pay the full money for Fernandes, then we're talking about taking that over and above 600 million, possibly more. Let's say another 50 million for Felix if we were to go and, you know, purchase him full, you know, at the end of the season or whatever. And then, of course, let's say we're going to get another player. Let's say it's Declan Rice or that Casido, which I'll talk to him about that as well in a minute, guys, because obviously there's a lot of news about him. You're probably talking 700 million, and then, of course, there's the 22 million that we've spent giving to Brighton, which was 20 million for Potter's services and 2 million for his backroom staff, and then the 11 million that's still to pay on Thomas Tuchel's contract, which was terminated, as we know. It's just unbelievable. And I suppose the spending would continue as well, because we've also bid 50 million for some real estate, for some property, you know, off the West Stand, with regards to stadium development. And just to talk about that, guys, before I forget, there's two other bidders on that, real estate companies that are also bidding along with us. So it's not a done deal as such, but we put a bid in there for 50 million. I think we find out about that around March time. But interesting reference to stadium. Let's talk about the stadium not being completed until 2030. That's unbelievable. And all the talk about us not having to move away and them doing it stand by stand, which I did say I just can't see happening because of the acreage scenario, and of course because of the height restrictions, and also because of the access problems, as there's only one access route onto the you know, Fulham Road. That, you know, we're going to have to move away, so we're talking 4 if not 5 seasons somewhere else, which is not going to be great. And as I said before, if it's Wembley, fuck that for a game of soldiers. I just don't fancy that at all. Cannot stand it. So yeah, lots of money being spent, no two ways about it. And let's talk about Malo Gusto. We've got that one over the line. It's been long overdue, that right back situation. As we know, whoever we got in is going to have to kind of play second fiddle to Reece James, you know, which is not great. But we know that Reece James is does get injured from time to time. More often than not, he is a player that, you know, puts everything in, and so I imagine this guy will get a lot of games. He's a good, really good player. He's really ultra quick. He's young. He's 19 years of age, and he's really high on the press. He's very good on the press. If you see any of his videos, guys, for Leon, you'll see, you know, how good he is. Well, he's come over. The fee's been agreed 31 mil, so we have now got right back in place. But we've loaned him back to Leon, so we don't get his services until next year. So that's one for next year. I don't know how you feel about that, guys. Is that a sensible move? Because if James does get injured, and it's rather noticeable now, guys, that a lot of our players are coming back, being Chilwell and N'Golo Kante, Wesley Fofana. You know, so we're talking a lot of our players returning back to full fitness, which is fantastic, because our first 11 will look completely different now. And I can tell you, all our rivals right now, if you watch any of the other channels, which I tend to do just to keep my fingers on the pulse, so to speak, they are all really worried. They are, you know, they are very worried about how we're doing it. And there's lots of snidey little words everywhere. Jurgen Klopp the other day, you know, he had plenty to say. Chelsea have their way of doing it, you know. So we know that we're creating waves, and that's great as far as I'm concerned. So fingers crossed, ENZO FERNANDEZ will be a Chelsea player. It'd just be fantastic if we can get, as Johnny would say, the Rolls Royce to go alongside him. I think that'd be amazing. And I'd be quite happy for us to swerve Moises Caicedo and for us to get Rice. In other words, Arsenal swerve the Rice, because lots of talk about them and Declan Rice, etc. But for them to get Caicedo, they've bid £5 million more than us, but it's still been rejected. 55 million, we went in with 60 million. They went, and they're going again, I think 70 million, but I think Brighton want 80 million. And why wouldn't they? Because they've got plenty of money. They have effectively sold their soul. A lot of their players, as I say, their backroom staff, you know, they've got lots of dough, and they've, you know, between Chelsea and Arsenal, we've done all right by them. And of course, we're both kind of going back into this player, and it's all a bit awkward right now, because the player came out, made a statement online on social media about how he was happy to help Brighton with the highest transfer fee ever, to help them with financially and that, and, you know, and almost basically saying, see you later, alligator, and no one's activated it yet. Listen, if Arsenal get that over the line, I'm happy with that, as long as we get Rice, yeah. But who's to say you wouldn't rule out the situation with Chelsea, would you? But listen, we need to get our players in right now. This is the moment, this is the time now where we can take advantage of it. And then, of course, next season, it will either be a bidding war for these players or back to 5-year contracts. But there you go, guys. Interesting, the Moises Caicedo situation, for sure. What else is there to talk about, guys? Right, so just reference the ENZO FERNANDEZ still. I think what was holding it up was the fact that he was going to get a little sweetener, a little 2 million sweetener from Benfica. In other words, a loyalty payment. In other words, don't go off and, you know, sort of leave us, stick with us, and we'll give you 2 million for your troubles. So I think any deal that we do would have to kind of include that. But watch this space, guys. I will go out with something if we get it over the line. But what do you think about him? What do you think about Declan Rice? What do you think about Caicedo and his statement, and the fact that Arsenal are definitely going for that one? Will we allow them to have that while we can take Rice? I'd rather have Rice, to be totally honest with you. Or do you still want him? Do you still think he's good enough? You know, it's a lot of money for a player that's kind of only played, what, 30, 40 games at the top level in his career. It's a lot of dough, you know, as indeed they all are, these deals. Okay, what else is out there? Talk about Lukaku, Inter Milan. Don't want him. But Eddie Howe at Newcastle apparently does. So 350 grand a week is the scary one, whoever takes on Lukaku. There was talk about Bayern Munich. I can't see that one, to be fair. But if we don't sort anything out, he will be back, you know, before we find someone to either loan him out to or whatever. But if Newcastle want him, then let's sell him. Or are you someone out there that thinks, you know, he was a class player, let's see if we can kind of, you know, get him tuned into Channel 4 and get him working, and you know, would it be a great signing? Because at the time most people were kind of happy that he was joining us. It's just obviously turned sour, isn't it, what with that interview that he done on Sky Sports Italia, like, you know. Let us know what you think on that one, guys. Okay, so the last but by no means least talk is apparently Jose Mourinho has put his people out there to put it out that he's interested in a return to England, in particular London, and at Chelsea. He'd like to come back for a third stint. How do you think about that, guys? How do you feel about it? You know, would that be a really good move as far as we're concerned? Would you give up pretty football, the modern type football? Are you one of those that thinks he's a bit of a dinosaur now in comparison to the modern day managers, or just see him as just an incredibly decorated manager, which he is, that would come back and with a different board, a different outlook? Look, it kind of fits, and I did say this in my videos, I could understand the whole Tuchel out, bringing in someone like Mourinho that would, without a doubt, appease the fans. I think most supporters would be happy with it. A lot won't, of course, because, you know, he did create some waves when he left, but he has been kind of talking in superlatives towards us in recent years. And let's not forget that he's the only manager, apart from Antonio Conte, because they do like our old managers, don't they, that still win a trophy there. If you look at his record, you know, he's won trophies everywhere he's been. It's just incredible record. What would you think about that? As I say, he lives around the corner. His most recent comments were that he loves to hear the noise. You know, he likes to hear people are happy up the road at Stamford Bridge. You know, he's definitely someone that would love to come back. And well, listen, he's a winner, isn't he? And when you're at that level, trying to, you know, there's 6, 7 clubs all vying for 4 positions, and 2 absolute, without a shadow of a doubt, main trophies. Yeah, I'm no disrespect to the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, which are great to win and just great to, you know, put in your trophy cabinet and, you know, add to your illustrious history. But Champions League, the Premier League, they're the 2, and you do need an absolute high quality manager, which Jose is, in order to make that happen. Now, will this management team stick with Graham Potter? Well, I think probably for now they would, but it depends on how bad it gets. I would imagine with some of those players now coming back that results will go more favourably for Graham Potter. But it might be a situation where we let it ride until the summer, and then if things aren't great, I think Mourinho would probably stay put at Roma until the summer. And who's to know, like, guys. What I will say in terms of the betting odds, I took the liberty of looking it up. Top of the tree is still Mauricio Pochettino. He's way out in front to replace Graham Potter should Chelsea, you know, terminate his contract. And then secondly, it's who is it? It's Brendan Rodgers, yeah. And, you know, he's quite incredulous. Yeah, I think Mourinho's full favourite, but it's still quite you know, sort of large odds, like, you know. But would you be happy with that, guys? As I say, let us know down below. What I will say is it's had a fair old bit of dough from us. With, I think I'm right in saying 31.4 million he's had off us as a football club by his contracts terminated. So he's done well at Chelsea FC regardless. In fact, they all have. I took the liberty of looking them all up. Antonio Conte was the largest singular one, 26.6 million in 2018. Just to let you know, Mourinho was 23.1 million in 2007 when he left, 8.3 million in 2015. As I say, Antonio Conte 26.6 million in 2018. Frank Lampard, poor old Frank, got just 2 million. Compare that to Robbie Di Matteo, that got 10.7 million. Claudio Ranieri, right in the beginning of Roman's tenure, 6 million. Avram Grant, 5.2 million. Phil Scolari, fucking Phil, 12.6 million. And Carlo Ancelotti, 6 million. And Andre Villas-Boas, 12 million. Incredible, absolutely incredible. But there you go, guys. Anything else to talk about? No, that's pretty much it, really, guys. So by the looks of it, as I say, we've got our man, Malo. So we have a right back now in place. The spending goes on, the spending continues. And watch this space. Maybe ENZO FERNANDEZ is going to join us. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Anyway, guys, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I love reading what you have to say. Much love, and of course, up the chills.